Hello, world. Welcome to another episode of the Sober Logic Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. André Dyer, and we're keeping the financial segment going on the podcast. Going to be tackling some random questions that I've received, and most of these questions are recently, actually. So, keeping it on the financial side. The thing is, if you're unaware, I am an accountant. My certification is expired. Long time. All right, long expired. I am in education. All right, I am a principal, well, vice principal at the moment. The thing is, everyone needs to manage their money. Everyone has bills. You have to take care of. You have to take care of business, right? But we make bad decisions. Fortunately for me, as the time of recording this video, I'm debt free. And I'm debt free in the sense of that does not mean I don't have bills. Of course, I have bills. I have utility bills and so forth. And I have a mortgage. So those are bills. The thing is, there are good bills and there are bad bills. All right? Good bills and bad bills. Good bills are bills that go towards assets that go up in value. Bad bills are liabilities and assets that go down in value, depreciate. What does that mean? Well, when you're young and dumb, or you've been tricked into getting a retirement vehicle, you are tricked into buying a vehicle. Once you buy a motor vehicle and you drive off the lot, that motor vehicle depreciates, regardless of how new it is, how fancy it is. The moment you drive that car off the lot, it depreciates. So, investing in a motor vehicle that chews up a bunch of your spending power is a bad idea. What do I mean? I'll give you an example. So, before I went in education, I was in corporate. We are a good example. A couple of years ago, there is a guy that he had an X6. This is when BMW X6 just came out. My timeline might be wrong. Might be about 8 years ago. So BMW X6 just came out, like the new design, like the sport design, and yeah, looked nice. This car cost, so it's just Jamaican dollars, cost $12 million, right? A 2-bedroom house, 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom with land. This is when you used to get a little land. The house cost $10 million. So right off the bat, this gentleman's car cost more than the house. He made good money, all right? So he took the car first. Taking the car first, and then he said, I guess somebody talked to him and was like, hey, because you're driving around a vehicle the value of a house. He went and got the house. Problem was now, he could not keep up with the payments. Could not keep up with the payments at all. So the bank said, hey, sell the X6, because BMWs depreciate at a slower rate than a lot of vehicles in Jamaica. For some reason, Jamaicans think BMW is the be all and all. And dude was like, no, he'll rather not have a house because he needs his X6. Okay, so what he faulted on the mortgage for the house. The bank repossessed the house, and he lived out of his X6. Yeah, but here's the thing. Remember, every year that goes by, the X6 depreciates in value. Every year that goes by, your house appreciates. But he wanted to live the flashy life, right? He had to floss and get the girls and be the man. And now he's living out of his X6. Things got hard because you're living out of your car. Where he worked, people eventually going to find out. So now he had that stigma on him. Hey, him live out of car. I'm going like him flashy, acting like he's all that. So things go bad. He lost his job. Losing the job, couldn't afford to pay the monthly payments on the X6. So the bank came knocking. No, he's evading, he's had to evade the bank. But eventually, the repo men got hold of the car. All right, got hold of the X6. So now he lost the X6 because he was living out of the X6. His belongings were in the X6 when it got repossessed. So now, dude went from being all super flashy, driving this super expensive car, losing the home, lost the car, and now he's in tons of debt. Tons of debt. On the flip side, I like to use teachers as examples because I am a teacher. On the flip side, you have a teacher who was making, I think she was making like 1.2 million at the time. Again, Jamaican dollars. She was making 1.2 million at the time, and she came to me and she said, she wanted to buy a car because cars are becoming more affordable. They're making the interest rates more affordable for civil servants. And she came and she gave me the paperwork and everything. And when I was looking at the paperwork, this car cost 2 million. It was 2 million and change. It didn't reach 2.1, but it was 2 million and change. And I'm like, I'm not signing this. And she's like, why? And so first off, your salary don't ever reach that high, so why would I sign this? She was frantic. Like, she was like, you're a principal and you have a car, and why you don't want good for me? And I let her rant. She did vex. So vexed that she stormed out of the office. But then she came back about 30 minutes later. And, she apologized. She shouldn't lose her temper, blah, blah, blah. She was like, don't fire me. I never mean it. Like, I'm not going to fire you. I mean, I get it. I'm from a family of educators. Almost every educator from my mother's circle, they wish they could afford a car, because things were different then. Like, they couldn't afford a car. And then I said, look, do you pay rent? She said, no, she lives with her mother. So I was like, all right. So that is why you got approved for this loan, right? She's like, what you mean? Because you live with your parents and you're not paying rent, you have no mortgage or anything, your spending power qualify you to buy this car. The problem is your salary is way lower than the value of this car. She never really get it. So I said, look, you're young, okay? If you buy this car, and the loan was for 8 years, so if you buy this car, what it means is for the next 8 years, you're stuck in your mother's house. And she said, what? I said, yeah. For the next 8 years, you're stuck in your mother's house because all the free money, I call it, open money, available money from your salary, will be going towards this car. In 2 weeks, I told her 2 weeks. In 2 weeks of driving this car off the lot, it's no longer valued at $2 million. It's not going to be valued at, it's going to be valued way less. So it sat and I broke it down to her. And she's like, well, she never thought of it that way. And I said, I know you didn't think of it that way. That's why you got upset and you cussed me off. You're angry. It's saying like, I'm trying to hold you back and da-da-da-da-da. And I said, tell you what, if you can find a good vehicle, maximum 800,000, I will sign that paperwork. And I'll even be a reference for you, for your loan. And she's like, what? I said, what kind of car is 800,000? I remember, she's looking at 2 million and I'm telling her 800,000. And I said, well, let's look at it this way. Have you ever owned a car before? She said, no. I said, what are the odds of you going 8 years and not crashing this car, not damaging this car, not somebody not running up into you, all of those things? Everybody that I know are first-time drivers, they meet into accidents. Even if it's not their fault, if it's somebody's fault, everyone meets into an accident. How are you going to feel if you have this $2 million car and something just runs into you? Remember, you're in an agreement with the bank. Even if something happens to that car, you still have to pay the bank monthly. And if the insurance throw you a curveball and say, hey, we deem that it's your fault, we're not going to cover it, you still owe the bank for 8 years. It's like, oh, I didn't think of that either. I was like, yeah. So all of these things, you need to weigh the pros and cons. Here's the other thing. If you find a car that's 800,000, yeah, it's going to be likely a used car. It's not going to be something fancy, not going to be a vroom vroom. It's going to get you from point A to point B. But I'll guarantee you that the engine in there is going to be small and you're going to save money on gas. And this was a time when gas did just start getting expensive. So no, all right, if she gets a smaller car, she can save money on gas, get her from point A to point B. And I told her, the same car you just cussed me off and told me that I have a car. It cost me this amount of money for that car because the engine is this size. If you have a car that's this size engine, odds are you're spending like, I map out all of that for her. She said, all right, cool. She left the office and she was thinking about it, and she came back just shy of 2 weeks-ish. And she actually came back with a car that was valued 600 and something thousand. And I'm like, She's like, yeah. She went around and she did her research and she found a half hybrid car. So it was one of those, I forget the name, but it was a hatchback where the more you drive the car, it had the kinetic energy charge, and then it would kick over to the battery, and then once the kinetic energy charge, it kicks back over to gas, it charges back up, and it kicks back over. So then it's beneficial. And because she had a good little drive to school, majority of the time, whatever was charged on the battery is what she was using to get to work, and then he used it to go back home, and then the next day charge and da. So short version of the story is she was buying gas twice a month, right? While we had this discussion between ourselves, people had heard when she flared up. So people had heard the argument. Oh gosh, Dr. Dyer got fired. So another teacher didn't come to me for the paperwork to sign because they heard of her argument, and they went and they got a nice car. But this car was just shy of 2.5 million. This teacher was a more senior position, so they made more than the teacher that I had the conversation with, but their salary was lower than the value of the car. Fast forward like a year and a half, teacher that have her little car was happy because getting her from point A to point B, and because she didn't blow all her salary, she saw a little piece of land and said, hey, she can put in a little bit. This is when land is cheaper, like not the crazy exorbitant prices now. So she got the land, right? Over time she got the land, and so she now had two mortgages. She had a little mortgage on her car and a mortgage on her land. Teacher that went and got the super expensive car was complaining about the car because the car is guzzling gas. The payments was killing her. And I'm like, look at that. You know, people thought that I was mean and vindictive because I didn't want to sign the paperwork. But I knew what she was getting herself into, right? The young teacher. The moral of the story, I don't know. But at the end of the day, the young teacher came to me and said, you know what? Thanks, Dr. Dyer. Like, you broke it down to me. I thought you were being vindictive. She saw how the other teacher was now struggling. She saw how that teacher and her husband now start have arguments because the husband was like, I tell you, shouldn't have buy that car. It's too expensive. We can't afford it. But she wanted something nice. All right. So it's like little things like those you have to pay attention to. So there's just little tricks to the game. So here's the thing to me and civil servants, not just teachers, but civil servants in general. If you're looking for a car to buy, my first question is, do you own a home? If your answer is no, depending on your living situation, I would deter you from getting that car. Honestly, I'm not sugarcoating it. Because cars depreciate in value. if you don't own a home, the first thing you want to do is get a home. The second thing is, do you want to rent, lease, or buy that home? Buying is better. Not everyone can afford it because you have down payments and things like that. But again, today, a lot of banks will give you 90%, 100% financing. And that little 10%, if you don't have the 10%, they'll say, all right, we'll give you a 10% loan and the 90% financing. But of course, they're keeping the loan to cover the rest. Is it the best deal out there? No, it's not. But it works. It works in the sense that you'll become a homeowner. Here's the catch though. Depending on, let's work with a couple. All right, so let's say a teacher is married and have a spouse. That mortgage, do not tie the mortgage to both people. All right, husband and wife, don't tie it to both. You want it to be on one. So you go out and you do your pre-qual letters, your pre-approval letters, and whatever one person can afford, put it on theirs. And I'm gonna tell you why. I mean, if you guys are married and are supposed to, in an agreement for better or worse, till death do you part. All right. The catch, I would say, let me bring it back. Let's say it's let's use 2 teachers just for easy calculation. 2 teachers, but one teach at a high school, one teach at a primary level. Let's say usually the high school teacher makes more. Usually, primary level teacher. But remember, when you grow up, you have your different circumstances. You probably have loans. When you do your pre-qual letter, my advice is whoever makes the least, whatever their pre-qual value, look at what homes are available at that value. Again, you might say, nah, but why would we want a bad place, blah, 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 blah. No, you're thinking to start small, all right? So if you can get a little 1-bedroom apartment and you start off with that, because you're putting everything on that person's account. So you get a 1-bedroom apartment. It's not posh. It might not be in the most glorious of neighborhoods, but you get a place. See, when everything is on that one person's thing, this other spouse is building what they have. So let's say they work there now. It's a 10 years pass. You live here so for 10 years. You don't have anything on yours, right? Because the house is on here, car is on here. Or even if you had the car on here, the 10 years pass and you pay off the car. Now when you go back, you say, all right, what can we afford on mine? Because you have this one already swallowed. You can afford a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom in a nice neighborhood, a gated neighborhood. You say, oh, now you put everything on this spouse. Now the family move over here. Here's the thing. You now have this property to rent. You're getting a second income over here. And you live here, so in the nice neighborhood. You sacrifice for the 10 years, but guess what? The family now own 2 property. The family has paid off their car. At this point, I'm pretty sure you have kids. And the kids here, look, you want to have the best for them, right? So now, you own 2 homes. But you sacrifice and put everything on one person. Them can't do nothing. This person has to be the breadwinner and pay all the bills because all of this person's salary is going towards paying the mortgage and things like that. It's a rough route to go, but it works out. It works out in the sense that you can acquire more as a unit. Let me bring it back now. So what I've realized car companies are doing, so when you go to buy a car, they ask, oh, you have a spouse, you can put the spouse on it. That's why you buy the car together and you can get something brand new. You can get the flashiest thing, the latest model. What you're doing is you're killing the credit limit of both partners, right? And it's the same thing with that mortgage. If you had put the mortgage for both people, you're killing the potential for both. It works out only for the financial institution, Because what happens is the financial institutions get two people for one asset. All right. So if they put two people on the car, they kill both of you. Credit line. And if you wanted to go buy something again, if you wanted to buy a house after that or a car after that, they have to look at both of you and then they trap both of you. Whereas if you only put it on one, if you guys are a unit, you have this person's spending power free and you lock in only one person. In the long run, you can acquire more. All right. In the long run, it's more beneficial. And then I always tell people, based on your income, don't go over your spending bracket. Sounds harsh. Sometimes people think, you're just holding me back. You don't want me to be great. That's not the thing. I want you to be great, but you have to realize it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. All right. It's a marathon, not a sprint. So if you took your time, it's your first car, you don't need to go get something extravagant, get something small. And when you have that small thing and you're now used to how mortgages and stuff work, you can go and acquire a property. Like I told you, the teacher went and got land, so she acquired the land. And then because as time move on and you're in your work, your salary becomes higher. You get your additional qualifications and you can afford better things. So now with the land, you should use the land and use that as collateral on something. Hey, I own this piece of land, it's valid XYZ. I want to put it on collateral for this house. By the time that roll around, she's like, you know what? I don't even need this car anymore. I'm going to sell this car. Get rid of that off my back. So you eliminate that. And if she had a spouse, if she have a spouse and they get rid of the car, one of them can put it on their thing. So let's say she had a spouse and the spouse said, all right, I'm going to put all the mortgage on my thing. All right. She's now freed up for whatever. So now they have land, they have house. He probably has a car. They don't need to drive that. And they're good to go. So later on down the road, if they say a nice little apartment again or something, they can say, hey, that's apartment. It's affordable. We can use that as a second stream of income. She has nothing on her portfolio. Her credit score is good. Boom. House, apartment, land. And they have a car. House, apartment, land, and they have a car. So I know it's easier said than done, but yeah, that's the logic behind it. As long as you can figure out the end game, you're willing to play the long game, it's possible. It's possible. And you don't need to put yourself in crazy debt to attain these goals. So that's the misconception people have. You have to go for the flashy things, and they're like, you don't. Yeah. I'm gonna close on this. My biggest life lesson was when I went to Myanmar. I met a lot of millionaires for the first time. And I'm talking millionaires, like the 1%. All right? You could not tell they're millionaires in a room. You walked in a room, basic shirt, no jewelry. They weren't flashy. They weren't loud. They're just there to enjoy the social scene. Then you looked around, the flashy people and the ha 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 and the loud people. Like you started analyzing them, and I'm like, pretty sure me as a teacher in a better position than them. Right? Pretty sure like my conservative ways, my net value is higher than theirs. And I'm looking at the millionaires and like, even me with my conservative ways, I looked more flashy than the actual millionaires. Something wrong with that picture. And then I started analyzing more. None of the millionaires had on like Air Jordans or whatever the name brands were at the time. Like none of them. Like none of them had on Prada and Gucci, and none of them. They had on average clothes, but comfortable clothes. If you paid attention though, their comfortable clothes were quality. So although it wasn't like name brand, it was quality material, like stuff you probably never heard of, but they're quality made, which means they're going to last long. And then you're analyzing who making the bag of knives and you're like, okay, that's interesting. And then the actual millionaires were cheap. Yeah, they were cheap. Like, they weren't just ordering things for ordering sake. They look at it and they're like, does that work? It does not work that much. I was like, no, it's not. I was like, all right, we're not going to order that. And they skipped the page. And they came to an agreement on what they're ordering. They ordered like a nice spread, you know. Like, the table had a nice spread. But it's the way they did it. So there was a nice spread, but they weren't overspending because they knew the value of stuff. And then you had a nice evening and everything, and everybody it's cordial and they're heading home. And you're like, hey, you know, who driving with who? He's like, oh, my driver can take you. He's like, yeah, sure, cause my driver's there. And then they had their drivers and stuff. And then they're like, oh, you know what, save on gas. Send home your drivers who live in proximity. And they carpooled. Millionaires, right? When you looked at the other crowd, who was flashy. These are the times of like the load up cars, your Integras and your Evolutions and all that. And they're, you know. So, yeah, so now like the next weekend rolled around, they rolled in with the millionaires again, and they looked very average. Nobody dressed up in no load up nothing. And then we saw the same crew again, you know. The big chain and the fancy watch and everybody. I keep saying Air Jordans. Like, I have nothing against Jordans, but for some reason everybody feel like, oh, them needs to go buy the latest Jordans. And you're like, oh, okay, interesting. And I took that away from them, and I got one of these outings. We were just chilling, and they were teasing another person. Not gonna say no name. And I'm like, why are they teasing you? And he's like, yeah, because, you know, I'm in the 1%. I'm like, what do you mean? Isn't everybody here is rich? Like, aren't you guys all millionaires? And then they start laughing, and they're like, yeah, we're millionaires, but he's the 1% of the 1%. And I'm like, really? You're that rich? Like, yeah, like, just casually, like, yeah. I own a couple businesses, family own a couple businesses. They've owned business for like generations, and I'm like, okay. I could never tell. And then they started pointing out like the tiniest details. Like, look at his glasses. The frame is da 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 da. And I'm like, but the glasses look normal. And they're like, yeah, but those will never break. I'm like, oh. But those days I didn't wear glasses. I didn't know anything about glasses. And then they're like, look at his watch. So I'm looking at the watch to see if it's a Rolex or whatever. And they're like, no, it's I forget what the brand was, because at the time, then I only thought like Rolex was whatever. But that's when I got introduced to the automatic. And they're like, huh? I was like, oh, I didn't even realize that. And then they look at like the clothing and the quality. But remember, rich people can spot rich people. And they were all like going in on him. And he was just super casual, like look normal, like just look like a polo shirt. And I'm like, interesting. Fast forward a couple years, wrap this up now. There was it was after COVID or before COVID, I can't remember. There's a photograph with all of like the rappers, and they're like, oh, all the greatest MCs in one room. So you had like Jay-Z on there, DMX, DJ Khaled, like everybody, right? And what stood out to me, I don't know if other people realize, the richest people in the room in that photo would have been like Dr. Dre, Eminem, Jay-Z, and they were the only ones not wearing chains. And if anybody can find that photo, they're the only ones not wearing chains. And by far, Dr. Dre, Jay-Z, Eminem were like the richest people, the richest rappers, and the richest people in the room. And all the rappers that were struggling, like the biggest jewelry, biggest watch, grilled out. Look at that. The three richest people in the room are the ones that were not wearing chains. Yeah. yeah. So yeah. So, and it kind of remind me. I'm gonna big up. I'm gonna bring up Jangas right here. Big up Jangas. It was just right before I flew out. I went to Jangas as I was just chilling. I was chilling on a stool. It was night. I didn't know an event was keeping. I didn't know an event was keeping. So I just rolled in thinking it was just another night at the place. Um, the guard was a female guard at the gate. She's like, ticket, blah, 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 like a flare up. I'm like, what? What are you talking about? Oh, you can't sneak in. I'm like, okay then. And then there's another guard. And he was super casual at him. Eyed me up from like head to toe. Like, he's like, are you here for the event? I was like, nah, just come to chill out at Django still. And he's like, well, there's an event starting in an hour. Like, how long you chilling? I was like, well, I didn't know there was an event. I was just coming to hang out, see if it was just a regular night, probably play some Ludo, da 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 da. And he chuckled. I was like, well, I don't think any Ludo playing tonight. And just as I was saying that, one of the owners for Django's was like walking out, and he's like, hey, Dyer, what going? I was like, oh, I was just passing through. I didn't know it was an event. And then the female guard was like, look how I'm even dressed. Because I had on a jogger shorts, sneakers, polo shirt. Like, I wasn't dressed for no party. And, like, we're having the conversation. And then I overheard the guard turn to her and say, realize him richer than the rest of the people, them. And she's like, eh? And he's like, yeah, like, he's dressed for comfort. So that's when I turned to him. I was like, why you think I rich? And he was like, well, the way you carry yourself. Like, the average person, if when the guard load them up, they flare up and da-da-da. But you were very casual with it and you're cool with it. And then even when the boss man, I'm talking about the owner, I'm saying, even when boss man see you, boss man knew you. So that's how I know you're rich. And I said, no, boss. So I'm not rich. I'm an educator. I'm in education. And he's like, really? I was like, yeah. I said, I just don't waste my money on material things. And he was like, start pre me. And I say, yeah, for real. You don't have on a chain. Yeah, your watch looks simple. Like, him start pre everything. And then she, the female guard was like, now that you mention it. And then she suddenly started being nice to me. They're like, so sorry, and da-da-da-da. I get off at 4 o'clock, if you want to. I'm going to say, it's all right, I'm cool. And then that's when the brother was like, hey, you want to have a drink? It's the owner. I was like, yeah, you all have a drink. You're going to stay for the party. Yeah, probably get your ticket or whatever. I was like, oh, it's cool. I didn't know it was an event. If anything, I'll circle back, I'll go dress and come back. And it's all right, cool. I say hey to the guard. Female guard was like, all right, come back now. Give me your number now. I was like, no. No, it's not gonna happen. And yeah, take for myself. So I say all that to say though, it felt nice that the guy thought I was rich. But I learned how to dress comfortable. Like, I dress comfortable. Even this shirt. It's a very comfy shirt. Yeah. Anyways, that's it. I'm ranting. See y'all in the next one. Peace.